Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of a new season of the Insights podcast. This mini series is about grit stories, a series of inspiring interviews with entrepreneurs whose personal determination and resilience in the face of immense odds got them to where they are today. This is important right now because we need all the grit we can get to face down and fight tough times, both personal and professional. We hope the series gives you some of that strength we all need. In today's episode, I'm delighted to welcome Niraj Singh, CEO of Spinny. Niraj is an IIT Delhi alumnus and had founded a couple of companies before Spinny. Born out of his desire to solve car ownership issues for young Indians, Niraj started Spinny with $500,000 from his own funds and is now one of the most beloved brands in buying used cars and has raised more than $100 million till date. However, the journey has not been simple and straightforward. Spinny has come through a lot of speed bumps on its way to making cars available to all Indians. On this episode, we will try to travel along with Niraj and his startup to understand what it takes to make a truly disruptive market innovator. I hope you enjoy my conversation with him and are as inspired by his grit as I have been. Let's dive right in. Niraj, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for doing this and for being on Grit Stories. Yours is one of the grittiest stories I know in the founder ecosystem that I work with. So thanks for doing this. Yeah.
Thanks, Anand. Thanks for inviting me. It's my first podcast and really excited to do it with you.
Awesome. Cool, man. So I want to start out with, for the audience who haven't experienced Spinny, maybe a quick 1 minute on what is Spinny and where are you currently? Yeah.
So Spinny operates in Indian used car market. It's a full stack online retailing platform for used cars. Idea at Spinny is that we have to create an alternative for the customers where they can purchase a second-hand car, even a second-hand car with same confidence with which they would have purchased a new car. And at the same time, the overall buying experience can be much better than that. So that is the kind of platform we are trying to create for our customers.
Awesome. And you said, what's the current scale? Whatever you can share. Yeah.
Till December last year, we were operating in just 4 cities, Delhi NCR, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Pune. January this year, we added 4 more cities, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, and Ahmedabad. So at the moment, we are operating in the top 8 cities of the country. And we are all set to launch 7 more cities in next 2 to 3 months. So by end of August or maybe by end of September, we should be operating in top 15 cities of the country.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. So before we dive into your grit stories in particular, I wanted the audience to get, I know your story, but love to start with a little bit about your background, where you grew up, a little bit about that, and then your education, and then go on to the startup world, right? So let's start with your story. Yeah, whatever you want to share.
So, I come from a very small town in Jharkhand. The name of the town is Daltonganj. So born, brought up there. I studied there till class 10th in a Hindi medium school. Then I went to Ranchi for my plus 1, plus 2. And when I started my plus 1, so initially, there was a lot of struggle because of the, change in language. So when I used to study physics or science, any subject, right? So at one side of the table, I used, my basically curriculum related books. And on the other side, I used to have Bhargava's English to Hindi translation dictionary, right? So I had to translate things in the Hindi first and then understanding the real concepts. So I had to go through all those challenges. But yeah, I was able to cope up. Yeah.
Awesome. That's fun. Talk to us a little about your family. Was
So-
anyone into entrepreneurship, anything like that? Or yeah.
So my father was in business, right? And, till my early childhood, he was doing really good in the business. But when I was, in class 5 or 6, around that time, suddenly my father's business started crashing down. And that had a very different kind of impact on him. He went into depression and he was trying really hard to bounce back, to reverse the things. And I was seeing all those things happening in front of my eyes. So that definitely played some role in shaping me up. I used to have, as I kept, growing up, I used to have very candid conversations with my father, and I could see him, not giving up so easily, right? Fighting, trying to fight back with his best abilities. So that definitely played some kind of role in my shaping up, right? And the kind of candid conversations I used to have with my father, the way he used to explain the situation, the things to me, right? And the kind of stories he used to share with me, right? So those were very, very super duper inspirational.
Awesome. And from there, going to IIT, maybe how did that happen? Yeah, IIT Delhi. Yeah.
So when I was doing my plus one, plus two, simultaneously I was preparing for IIT entrance also. And after my plus two, I joined IIT Roorkee in 2002. So that year,
Roorkee. Yeah.
2002,
Okay.
IIT Roorkee.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2002 JEE, my preparation was really very good, but somehow I couldn't do that well in the exam. And I got selected, but my rank was very poor. So because of that, I got 5-year course, BR course in IIT Roorkee. That was
Architecture. Okay.
batch into Roorkee through JEE. Before that, that was University of Roorkee. So I joined IIT Roorkee for a 5-year BR, thinking that, at the end of the first year, I'll do a department change and I'll join a regular BTech course. So with that kind of expectation, anyways, I joined BArch at IIT Roorkee. But I went there, I realized that they were not allowing department change for BArch students. So that was some kind of shock for me. And it was clear that, I don't want to do BArch. So I want to do BTech. So that was very clear. So I discussed with my father. I wanted to appear again for the IIT entrance, but he didn't agree. So he was like, you will end up messing up this also. So I couldn't convince him to write the JEE again. So what I did, my roommate at IIT Roorkee was from Kanpur. I used his address and I basically filled up the form again. And I wrote the exam next time also in 2003 while continuing my first year at IIT Roorkee. And when the results came out, then only I shared with my parents, everybody else in the family that I appeared again. And this time I have got a really good rank. So in 2003, I left Roorkee and I joined IIT Delhi for BTech Electrical.
Awesome. That's an entrepreneur there itself. So, and any memories from IIT Delhi that were foundational for your startup journey? Anything from there, or love to jump into your first startup? How that happened? Yeah.
So when I was at IIT Delhi, my family was financially not doing that well. So to meet my expenses, I had to do tuitions and all those things. Being, IIT Delhi being in the heart of the South Delhi, so that definitely, played some role in providing exposure outside the basically academic curriculum. So, it was a really great move on our part or on my part, right, to join IIT Delhi. And I'm very, in hindsight, I can see that that was a really good decision. By the time, I reached the final year, right, I was very much clear that if we need to harness our full potential, if we want to basically build something impactful, right, then entrepreneurship is the way. And in a way, I had made up my mind that after the college, I'll be doing something of my own only.
Got it. Okay.
My
Cool.
experience from my childhood, had also played some role in that kind of, thought process.
Watching your dad and that entrepreneurship journey he went through.
I knew
Yeah.
that, so this entrepreneurship is a real roller coaster kind of thing, and we should not basically shy away from facing that. So that is the real fun. And everybody know, right? We know this, that destination is not that important, right? It is journey, which matters. And entrepreneurship provides you that kind of roller coaster journey.
Awesome.
And a lot of learning, really comes from that. So it was a no-brainer thing for me, to be honest.
Got it. So from there to starting your first startup, what was the startup about? Who did you do it with? Just walk us through that journey. Yeah.
So I started my first company immediately after the college. I'm intentionally using the term company, not a startup, because back then we didn't used to call, our companies startups, right? So the startups, VCs, PE funding, all these terms were not known to us back then. So we used to say that, we are building something of our own, we are building our own company, we are building our own business. So that is the kind of terms we used to use back then. So I started my first company immediately after the college. So I started with the two friends from the college. We were three co-founders, and the startup was into education. So education is very close to my heart. And having done my first startup in education, I told myself that I won't attempt again, to build a business in education. So that is why, I never tried building a business in education again after my first startup. Anyways, so the whole story of, starting in education was like, we wanted to do something of our own, but at the same time, we wanted to do something for the society also. And we thought that building something in education is the common answer. So we wanted to build an online education platform, open kind of platform. The closest resemblance we see today is like Khan Academy kind of platform. So that is the kind of platform we wanted to build back then. That was the basically core idea of our first company, first startup. And we wanted to build that kind of open education online platform where everybody can contribute and everybody can leverage from. So students, parents, institutions, schools, right, tutors. So that kind of platform, that kind of ecosystem for all stakeholders. So we wanted to build that kind of online platform back then. But at the same time, we were also realizing that it will consume and require a lot of resources. And we didn't had any idea about VC funding or PE funding. So we thought that to generate resources to build our online platform, we can do offline classes, IT entrance classes, basically IT coaching classes for some time. We were very sure that we will do a good job there, and that will be very successful, and we will be able to generate surplus, and we will use that surplus to build the online platform. So that was the whole idea. With that kind of approach, we started our first company, and we were building both the verticals in that startup. Name was Locus Education. So offline, basically vertical for IT entrance classes, and then the online platform which we're trying to build.
Got it. And how did that go? This is 2007 onwards, right?
Yes.
So,
So we
yeah.
started mid 2007. So as per the expectation, the offline classes was a huge success, right? Overnight kind of success. We started getting a lot of response, right? Amazing traction. We were able to generate a lot of surplus, and whatever surplus we were generating, we were using that to build that offline platform. But before that, starting up was not easy, Anand, right? So nowadays people are, and the system is very much supportive, right? If someone is trying to start something of his or her own. But back then people were not that much supportive, right? So everybody was questioning our move, right? Even our friends, right, relatives, family members, right? So I think everybody was against that kind of move. People were not very appreciative, right? My father was very angry with me, so he was not able to relate with the online platform thing, but the offline entrance classes thing, right? So he used to think that if you had to do coaching only, then what was the need of going to IIT and doing all the stuff? So he was completely against it. He didn't talk to me for a few months. But when people saw our passion, our commitment, right? So after that, basically having seen that kind of commitment from our side, people started supporting us eventually, right? My father started supporting me like anything. He was very proud of what we were trying to build. So he was really moved, by seeing that kind of effort and commitment from our side. So yeah.
Got it. And that, what happened like with the startup?
Yeah, so
That
the offline thing was doing very well, right? The coaching classes vertical. But with time, we started realizing that the online platform was not able to take off. Basically, now it is very easy to look back and say that that was very, very much ahead of time. But that time, because of our passion and enthusiasm, we were not able to see that. Writing was very much clear on the wall from the day one, but we realized that very late. So it had started feeling that we were pushing against the wall, and despite of our bestest possible efforts, right, that was not going in any direction. And that is when we decided to move on, because doing the coaching classes was not our real passion, right? Our original passion was building that online platform only. And when we realized that that was not going in any direction, we decided to move on. So we shut down the online vertical and sold off the offline vertical to Delhi-based DCM Shriram Group.
got it. And then what did you do like after that?
So after that, that time I was going through a very difficult phase in my life on the personal front. So around the same time, I lost my father.
Mm.
So I was really clueless for some time, right? Then when I gathered myself back again, I took some time for that. Then I started up my second company, and I did that with one of co-founders from my first startup. So we two started our second company together, and that company was into web media. So
Oh,
that
what was
time,
the gap between the two?
not much. So 3 to 4 months kind of gap.
Got it. Okay. Sorry about the loss there. Right. Yeah. 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 Mm.
Because I was in that kind of zone during that time. So when I was starting up my second company, right? So that time my other co-founder was basically taking a lead, right? And with the time I started basically getting the right momentum.
Got it. So you said, oh, what was the thesis of the second company, and how did that go? That journey.
Anand, that time we were seeing that more and more people were coming on web, and people were starting up to consume a lot of content.
Which
And
year was this? Sorry, just 2012.
2012.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, please keep going. Yeah.
So we were seeing that people were coming on web, they were consuming a lot of content, but at the same time, most of the content on web was Western content. India specific high quality content was not there yet. So we thought that there should be a dedicated platform for every category where India specific high quality content should be published, right? So we saw that as a great coming opportunity, and we were also very confident in content because the online platform which we were building in our first startup, fundamentally that was also a content platform only. So we saw a great opportunity coming up in content. We were comfortable and confident in content. So we thought that that should be our second startup. So name of the startup was Tech Monkey, and fundamentally that was a web media company. And we were establishing various content platforms in that startup, and every platform was dedicated to certain categories. So we're building platforms for sports, for teenage humor, for healthcare advisory, for education advisory, for travel advisory, right? Political editorials, so all kinds of platforms.
Got it. And how did that go? And then how long did you do this? Yeah.
So I was in that startup for close to 3.5 to 4 years. The start was really good. All platforms were shaping up nicely. At peak, the combined reach of all platforms was like 8 million to 9 million a month. That was a huge number for that time.
2012.
But
Wow.
we did
Okay.
certain strategic mistakes, right, in that startup. We accepted certain kind of strategic investments, and things were not moving in the right direction after that. So we really tried our best to fix things, but in spite of all the attempts, we started feeling that we are dragging our feet, and things aren't moving in the direction the way we wanted to execute, right? So having that kind of realization, right, I told myself that if I can take two attempts to build something of my own, then it is fine to take the third attempt also. But if I am not convinced with the current state of things, and if things are irreversible, then rather than wasting more time, I should move on.
Got it.
So after having that realization, right, even without having a clarity that what I'll be doing next, right, I moved on from there, right.
When was this? And
That was late 14.
14. Okay. And what did you do? What was the thinking at that time?
So I didn't know, right, that what to do next, but I knew that I don't want to continue with this. So immediately after moving on, I did a deep introspection, and immediately I realized that mistake in that startup was not entering into those strategic deals. The real mistake was starting the company itself. So if you look at the time when we started up, right, I was not in the right frame of mind. Also, we were out of our first startup. There was a self-created pressure that we have to start something again ASAP. We saw some opportunity in content. We were comfortable in content, and we just jumped in. Right, there was no vision. There was no sense of purpose. Right, so I immediately realized that if you do things without any core vision, right, or without a sense of purpose, without a deep conviction, then you won't be able to do from a long-term perspective, right? You'll miss the reference frame, and you do require those things, to make your decision makings, to do your execution on daily basis, right? So having a vision, having a strong and clear vision is not just about making the big decisions, right? So it is tied up to every small thing you do on daily basis. And that was my realization that we were executing our second startup without a clear vision. And because of that, we didn't had a reference frame and we were taking any kind of decisions. And because of that, things were going haywire. So I told
Mm.
myself that, I'll start my next startup only when I have a clear vision, very deep conviction, very clear sense of purpose for something. I won't start in haste again, right? I won't force engineer anything. I'll take my own sweet time, right? I'm okay to wait for some time, but I'm okay even not to start, right? But I'll start again only if I have a very clear sense of purpose and very, very deep conviction and a very clear vision for something. And whatever, having done two startups already, right? So I also thought that, I can't keep doing flip flops again and again. So it was very clear that, whatever I do, I'll do from a long term perspective and with that kind of high level, philosophy.
Awesome. And so what did you do? Like you started Spinny next. That was sometime later, right? So what happened in between?
So yeah, so I was not trying to force engineer anything, right? So I thought that I'll wait for natural calling, right? To wait for some time. So in that free time, I thought that rather than going for any paid MBA program or something like that, so why not start doing angel investments in startups? So even if I am not able to recover my money or multiply my money, right? A lot of learning should come from that exposure. So
Instead of
that
paying money and learning, you said, let me invest and hopefully
yes,
learn and
yes.
also maybe make money. Yeah.
I have to pay for
Yeah.
learning then rather than paying for MBA, right?
Yeah.
I'll,
Yeah. Yeah. Got it. How did
yeah.
that go? What were the learnings from that phase? How long did it last? And yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a basically 10 to 11 months kind of phase. And initially I had thought that I'll just invest in just 5 to 6 startups, but I ended up investing in 13 startups. And there were two expectations. One was of learning and the other one was of, testing myself. So having done, two startups already and contemplating the third one, I thought that, I should check my decision making, right, regarding the problem statement, opportunity, business models, go to market strategies, people, team building, culture, all those things. So I thought that, with this exposure, right, I'll get a lot of learning and I'll be also be able to check my decision making, check myself. So that those were the two expectations. The whole experience was amazing, Anand, right? The kind of expectation I had initially, from that engagement and the kind of learnings I got through that. I would say that, the learning was much more than what I had anticipated initially. Very amazing learning, lot of learnings. I'm really happy that, I basically made that move. So that also helped me, regain my confidence.
Got it. And then back to Spinny. How did that happen? Yeah.
So, when I was doing angel investments and I was having, a lot of free time during that phase, I realized that what are my core capabilities, right? What are the things, I really relate to. So, and the way I think about the society, the people, their aspirations, their emotions, right? So I thought that I should be doing something around that only, right? So I was able to see that, how basically aspirations of people play out in various phases of their life, as they keep basically, going up in their professional and career ladder, right? So I was able to see that house and car are basically the most important purchases for anybody, in his or her life. And nobody buys the house first, right? So when you buy your first car, so that is a very emotional, very special kind of purchase for you, right? Car buying is still very aspirational for most of the people in the country, right? So buying a car, bringing a car, to your home is like adding one more member in the family. So that is the way people relate with cars, right? And when you are relatively younger, when you are relatively early in your career ladder, and when you basically go out to buy your first car, so you have a limited budget, but in that limited budget, you want a car which can match your aspiration, right? It is a highly aspirational and super duper emotional purchase. So in your limited budget, you want a car which can match your aspiration, and that is why you start looking out for options in second hand. But the kind of purchase it is, because of that, the kind of expectations you have around quality, around transparency, around seamlessness, around the accountability from the seller, and the kind of experience you want to get, the kind of experience you deserve, I would say, right? And the kind of things happen with you in the market is exactly opposite, right? So so I was able to relate with all of this. And on a personal level also, I relate with cars in a very different manner, right? I think that my car is my only true personal space. You don't get that kind of personal space at office, at your home. When you are alone in your car, right, you are completely yourself, right? So many people can relate to this. So I was able to see that if we go after this problem statement, then this won't be just about chasing the Indian used car market opportunity or changing the Indian automobile opportunity. This will be more about solving for aspirations of people, right? This will be more about relating with the aspirations of the new age young Indian men and women, and willing to do anything to solve for that. This will be more about solving for trust and experience. When I say problems around quality, transparency, accountability, seamlessness, fairness, right? So when you basically package everything together, then the common term is trust, right? So I was able to relate that this will be more about solving for trust and experience. This will be more about building a brand which can eventually become synonym of trust and experience in the Indian society, which can inspire more people to do something like that, right? More about establishing that kind of benchmark, which starts inspiring other people. And if you are able to inspire other people also, right, to solve for trust, to solve for experience, then on a net level, you are also bringing down the whole level of the society. I was very much able to relate to all these aspects. And I was clearly seeing that if you're able to solve for this problem statement, right, if you're able to build Spinny as a synonym of trust and experience, right, because of the nature of this particular purchase, right, because this is a very aspirational and emotional purchase. So because of that kind of nature of the purchase, we have a clear shot at building a central brand of the country. And if you're able to build Spinny as that kind of brand, then the whole journey will be very satisfying, very fulfilling for all of us, right? Whoever is a part of this journey. And it was obvious to me that, for this cause, I can commit, next 10, 20, 30 years of my life, and I can work like anything to, build Spinny as that kind of platform.
That's awesome.
That is how,
So,
I,
yeah, that's the inception, or that's the idea. So, how did you go about starting? What is the initial phase of Spinny? Talk us through that.
yeah, sure. So initially we started with a C2C managed marketplace model.
Consumer
We
to consumer, so selling directly. Okay, yeah, peer to peer. Okay, yeah,
the strong verification layer and
yeah,
doing complete end-to-end hand-holding of both the seller and the buyer. So, so with that model, we started a C2C managed marketplace model. We thought that if you do only very verified listings, and verification is done by the in-house team, very capable in-house team, and if you are listing only cars beyond a certain quality on our platform, so we will be able to eliminate the information asymmetry. And if you are able to eliminate the information asymmetry completely, then we should be able to solve for the problems of mistrust. And if we're doing the complete handholding of both the seller and the buyer throughout transaction process, then we will be able to minimize the friction from the process, and that should result in certain kind of experiences. So with that kind of thought process, we started up with the C2C managed marketplace model. We operated with that model for almost 1.5 years. Immediately after starting up, because of my angel investment background and two previous startups, right? So because of that kind of background, we received our seed funding immediately. We started up, right, and we used that amount to scale our basically C2C managed marketplace model in early days. We were scaling up quite fast. Initially, we started only with Gurgaon. Then rapidly we scaled to the entire NCR. Then after some time, we started operating in Bangalore also. The top line action, was quite rapid. But at the same time, we were realizing that customers were not acknowledging our value add a lot, right? And the kind of solutioning we wanted to do for our customers, the way we wanted to solve problems around quality, transparency, seamlessness, right? taking a complete accountability of the product. So we were not able to do justice to our thought process, right? We were not able to do the right solutioning, and we were able to see that people were not acknowledging our value. So, so at ground level, fundamentally, the model was not working. And since the people were not acknowledging our value add, the processes were highly inefficient. Monetization was also not there, right? So, but by that time, seeing our top line momentum, we had also received term sheet for our series around, right? So it was a very tricky spot, to be honest. So given the momentum of our C2C managed marketplace model, we had a term sheet for the next round in place, and people were expecting us to keep scaling that model. But at the ground level, we were realizing that the model is not working, right? So we thought that we should do the right thing, and we were thinking that the going forward the right model should be a full stack model, where we control the entire value chain end to end. Then we would be able to control the quality. We will be able to deliver really good quality products with nice experiences, with taking complete accountability to our customers, right? And that is the kind of solutions the customers were looking for. So that was the right thing to do, going forward. That was very clear to us, right? So we decided to do a pivot. We thought that going forward, we will build the business with the full stack model only, so that we are able to provide right solution to our customers. So that was the right thing to do from a long-term perspective. But we had terms of our next round in hand. So we wanted to be very honest and transparent with those incoming investors. We went back to them, and we shared the whole learning and pivot plan with them, right? That going forward, we are planning a pivot, and the current model you are seeing won't be the core business model of the company, and the core business model will be a full stack one. So they were not comfortable with that pivot, and they basically pulled that option. That was
Wow, they pulled the term sheet, and this is how far from funding, like term sheet to the money coming in, and then how many months of runway did you have that time?
so we had runway of hardly 1.5 to 2 months, right?
Wow. Okay.
Right, and there was no major DD and all those things, a part of that round. So the day we signed the term sheet, we were expecting cash in bank within the very same month, right? That kind of understanding we had with them, because that term sheet basically, had come after a long engagement. You know, we had a very limited runway, and we were expecting cash in bank very soon. And we were not anticipating that because of our pivot plan, our term sheet will be, pulled. So we were in a very tough spot, because of that. And we really didn't know what to do, how to manage the whole situation. But one thing was very clear, that, our conviction was very solid, right? So having operated with that model for almost 1.5 years, having interacted with that many customers, right? We were very clear that the problem statement is real, is immense, and the right solution is the full stack model only, right? So if we basically pivot to the full stack model, and if we execute with the right focus, right, and if we are able to solve the pain points of the customers, then we will be able to build a great business. We will be able to build a great brand, right, which everybody will be, very proud of. We were very clear, we were very confident about that. So in
No, but
spite of that,
so sorry, Niraj. Like, but during that time, how did you feel? And then, what is going through your mind? Did you say, like, why don't we try to convince them? Maybe we continue on with marketplace and then slowly switch over to
that
this
was the
thing.
whole
Like,
idea,
what?
Anand, right?
Right? Yeah, yeah,
That was the whole idea, right? So
yeah,
it's exactly the same thing. That
yeah,
won't pivot abruptly and completely. There
yeah.
will be a transition phase of, let's say, 4 months to 6 months, and we'll be able to do it nicely. So I was trying to provide that kind of comfort to them, right? And I had not anticipated that this will result in such kind of event. That was
Mm,
completely unexpected,
mm,
because I was thinking that I am doing the right thing, right? Right thing for the business, right thing for the incoming investors, right thing for the customers. So I was expecting that I'll be appreciated for that kind of decision making, that kind of stand, and basically proactiveness and transparency to share, our whole thought process with the incoming investors, right?
Mm,
So,
mm.
so
So, how many employees at this time in the company?
we had a team of around 75 to 80 people.
Wow. Okay. So, what happened? How did you manage this phase? What were you and the co-founders? You have two other co-founders. What went through your minds, and how did you get through this phase?
So basically, with the expectation of a new round, the original idea was to do a transition, right? But when that got cancelled, right? So we were in a very, very difficult spot, and for a few days we really didn't know what to do. But we we basically we did a very thorough introspection, right? And we decided that we will still go ahead with our plan. The
Mm,
only change was that rather than observing a transition phase for 4 to 6 months, right? So we will do an immediate pivot, the complete pivot, right? And we will start again, from scratch with a very lean kind of setup. So that was a very, very difficult phase for us because we had to ask too many people to move on. Each and every member was an amazing member in the team. All people were handpicked, and we had a very great chemistry with all of our team members. So you can assume that in a way we restarted the business again from very scratch, and we restarted with a very lean cost structure and with the new business model, and we started only in Gurgaon, right? So we shut down our operations in rest of the NCR. We shut down the Bangalore operations, and in Gurgaon, basically, we continued with the new business model.
mm. And how was the family situation and all that during this time?
So when we pivoted, in a way, we restarted the business again from scratch.
Mm.
So that was early to mid 2017. So we were out of money, right? And there was no financial support from the family, right? My family was not in that position. So, but still, we were going ahead with our plan.
You were
So
married by then, right? Or yeah.
I was married by then, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So very difficult phase, I would say. Not, and that was basically near death kind of situation, and not easy to navigate through that phase. So what I did, I reached out to few relatives, few friends, and I started taking loans, and whatever monthly burn was there in the business with this new model, right? I was personally putting that into the company, right? Initially, the burn was very low, right? Because we had started at almost zero scale, but with time, it started increasing. But with time, business models also started working, and we were able to monetize decently. So, the burn started at like 8 lakhs, 10 lakhs kind of month, and it peaked around 30 to 35 lakhs a month. And then again, it went back to 4 lakhs, 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs kind of range.
Wow. And
So,
and through this,
but
how long was this phase and where you funded it yourself through
that
loans in
phase
this
was,
case? Yeah.
yeah. So towards the end of 2018, right? If you remember, we signed our term sheet
Yeah.
with you,
Yeah. Yeah. We invested around that time.
right?
Yeah. But how long was this? So for more than yeah.
So around 18 to 20 months, I would say,
Oh, wow. 18 to 20 months, you didn't know what's coming next,
right?
and you had to borrow a month's payroll at a time or a few months at a time,
So
and you built the
that
new. Yeah.
close to 1.5 to 2 years kind of journey, right? Phase was a very difficult one, right? So you basically need to convince yourself on daily basis that you're doing the right thing, right? And you're on the right track. You need to convince your colleagues, co-founders, then team members, and and all this while competition is scaling up like anything. A lot of buzz, a lot of funding in the category. So it was literally basically sailing against the tide, and but we were not giving up, right? The good part was that the team bonding was amazing, right? We were driven by a solid cause, right? Our only intention was to solve for the basically pains customers were facing out in the market, right? We wanted to solve for the quality, the experience, the transparency, the accountability, and each and every member in the society can relate to that, right? So that is a basically very, very common aspect of anybody's life. So our team member were also able to, on one side, they were able to relate with the problem statement, and on the other side, they were able to see our authentic conviction and the cause. So because of that kind of real purpose driven approach and that kind of authenticity within the team, we were able to have a great chemistry, and we were able to execute in spite of basically lack of all the resources and all those things.
And through this phase, obviously you obviously didn't have salary, and yeah, the team took some salary cuts and everything. Or how did you keep? You kept most of the team, or what was the size? Like, what did
So
you?
when we
Yeah,
pivoted, right, and
yeah,
restarted the business again from scratch, so we
yeah.
started with a 25-member team,
Got
right?
it.
And many people, basically were taking salaries in a deferred manner, right? So we had one-on-one chat with all of our team members. So depending upon the personal needs and situation of all the team members, right? So we were doing the disbursements in that kind of staggered manner, and whatever resources were required, manage that on monthly basis. Basically, I was arranging that from friends and family. So that is how we basically initially resumed the business with the new business model. But with time, the business model started working, right?
Mm.
So at the time of the pivot, we were very clear that this way we will be able to, solve for quality. We will be able to deliver great customer experiences. And if we are able to do that, then that should result in a decent monetization, decent gross margins, also very high reference rate from our customers, and all those things started happening on it, right?
Your reference rate was very high when we. That's a good measure of the customer fit, right? So, yeah, right.
Irrespective of the situation from the day one, right? Irrespective of the situation at any given moment of time, or the business model, or the overall state of things, from the day one, we are very clear that and we have been very respectful towards the aspiration and emotions of the customers, for this purchase, right? And because of that, we have been super obsessed with customer experience. So that is the core DNA of our team, right? That is the core aspect of our culture, right? And we keep telling ourselves that if we have to solve for trust and experience for our customers, then we need to solve for those things internally first, right? If people are not trusting each other, if they are not transparent with each other, if they are not concerned about creating value for each other, then we won't be able to deliver these things to our customers also. So that is the kind of orientation we have internally, and we operate with that kind of mindset. And because of that, we see very high NPS scores consistently, right? So our NPS scores every month are more than 70. So in a category like this, that is very difficult to achieve, but because of our efforts and our commitment, right, all of team members, we have been able to achieve that, right? And that kind of high NPS score results in a very high reference rate. So more than 35% of our monthly sales happen through reference of our previous customers without any reference bonus, right? Because of that kind of high NPS score, our gross margins are very healthy. We have been able to grow 15 to 20% month on month at a very minimal marketing spend, right? And all those things basically result into a very unseen kind of strong unit economics in our category.
Congrats, man. So when we looked at your business in late 2018, these were all the things that resonated because founders and teams that obsess over customer happiness, right, end up being really long-term value-creating
So,
companies.
when
And
we were
yeah,
starting up,
and just sorry, one last thing to the audience, like when we went through that whole journey of evaluating you guys, you never brought up how much hardship you had to go through for 18 months, right? So only while double clicking and going deeper in, we found out all that later. So, but it was more for the company, the quality of the company and products that we were building that we decided to invest in. Then, on top of it, your conviction that you showed by actually taking on that personal responsibility. Hats off to you and the team. Yeah, please keep going.
and then,
Niraj.
when we decided to pivot, right, that was not really easy. Everybody, were against it. All of our well wishers, advised against it. They were like, and back then, the full stack business models were not appreciated a lot. People used to be fan of asset light business models, fast growing business models, and we knew that this approach will slow us down in the beginning. We'll have to do, we will have to solve lot many more things, and that will slow down our growth. But we knew that this is the long term winner model. This is the right thing to do for our customers. We can solve the pain points of our customers only by this business model, right? And we basically said to ourselves that whatever the established templates are out there in the market, whatever the common wisdom is, right? All those things, don't matter at all when it comes to the real solution for the customer, right? What are the pain points of the customer and what is the real solution for that? And if something is real solution for the pain points of the customers, then rest of the things will automatically start falling in line. The business model will start making sense. The unit economics will start making sense. The customer acquisition cost will start making sense. Everything will start making sense if you are doing the right solutioning for your customer. So with that kind of belief, we were not, deterred by all the advices we were getting from, all of our well-wishers.
And then you stuck it out. This is a great story around how to hang in there and believe in your vision and go after that. Now, then you started scaling, post the funding, things were going well. Maybe just talk us through the COVID phase one, right? That was also not an easy thing for the country and also, I'm sure, for Spinny, right?
So, after our Series A round with you and Saf, so we started scaling up nicely. We started adding more people in the team. We had figured out the secret sauce, right? So we had certain capabilities in place. So we were investing more in those capabilities. We were adding capacity. We had started operating outside India. Everywhere we were getting very encouraging response from our customers. The kind of validation we were seeing on the ground in every new city was super duper encouraging, right? So riding on that kind of customer response, right? Just before the COVID first wave, we were trying to launch many more cities, right? And team building for all those cities, training for the new team members, everything was in progress with full swing, right? Then suddenly COVID hit. So during the first wave, COVID was a completely unknown animal to every one of us. We really didn't know what it is, right? And it is going to be there for how long? What kind of impact it will have in our economy? What kind of impact it will have on the society at a large, right? What kind of impact it will have on the consumer sentiment, the overall funding sentiment? We really didn't know anything initially. So
and business went to zero, right? So almost
everything
right?
was in complete standstill, right?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of ground operations in our business, right? So we need to do inspections on the supply side. We need to conduct test drives on the demand side, sales side. We need to make deliveries. So, a lot of ground operations. So everything was on complete pause. So because of the complete uncertainty, right, back then, initially we really didn't know how to react, right? So we decided that we will not react. So for some time, everything was on pause. We were trying to support the team members. We were trying to keep everything intact. We were interacting with all the team members very frequently, right? Then after some time, we figured out, how to plan, right? How to plan for post-COVID world, how to leverage this downtime, how to keep the team intact. And we started taking a lot of measures, right? So there were a lot of activities, a lot of measures to keep the team intact, to keep their motivation, keep their commitment intact, right? And also to support them. And on the other hand, right, regarding leveraging the downtime, we figured out a lot of new solutions, right? We basically, figured out what kind of needs customers would be having in a post-COVID world, right? And what kind of basically adoption we should be doing in our business to make ourselves fully ready for that. We came up with a lot of new processes, new products, right? So just to mention few, we started facilitating online transactions. And for that, we came up with fixed pricing model. Then we came up with the doorstep test drives, doorstep deliveries, buyback guarantees, right? So basically, the features and the tools which basically help you make your decision entirely online, right? With complete confidence and without any concern. So we did a lot of homework, behind the curtain to arrive at that kind of solution. And
Got it.
right.
And each of these were thought consumer back, right?
Yes,
Test drives at
everything.
home, right? Yeah.
Yeah, everything with consumer at the forefront.
Got it. Okay. Great. And then with that, you guys managed to come back stronger, right? So the post COVID, right? Yeah.
When things started opening up after the first COVID wave, first COVID lockdown, we had thought that we will take around 3 to 4 months to reclaim our original size of the business. But we were able to bounce back to our original daily run rate in just 5 weeks, right?
Wow.
So that was highly, encouraging. One more very interesting observation was that our customer acquisition cost. So our customer acquisition cost, fell down to 20% of our pre-COVID levels. So our customer acquisition cost already used to be, very controlled even in the pre-COVID world because of the kind of experience and quality we were delivering, right? But even that, fell down to 20% levels after the first COVID lockdown. So, we were seeing a clear tailwind in the category, right? Clear preference for personal mobility, right? Everybody, can relate to that. But what we were seeing, on top of that was a special tailwind for our brand. In a COVID impacted world, people didn't want to interact with a lot of sellers. They wanted to complete their transaction in the quickest possible time and with least possible engagement. And if you want to complete your transaction that way, you would like to connect only with the most reliable, most trustworthy player out there. And we were having that kind of word of mouth on the ground. And that started working really in our favor. So the way we have focused and obsessed about the quality and experience for some time, that started really paying off, after the COVID. And because of that, we were able to recover our original business in just 4 to 5 years.
Awesome, man. Thank you for sharing both these stories, right? So maybe one last question before I want you to talk about what you have in plans for the future of Spinny as well, but before, and any other message for the audience, particularly the founders listening. But before that, quick question. Any advice you would give a younger Niraj setting out on the entrepreneurial journey?
So, I'm happy with my journey so far. It has been quite a roller coaster, right? And amazing learning journey. I've really enjoyed this journey. There were some mistakes on personal level, right? So immediately after the college, starting up your first company. So if you come from my kind of background, so you have to leave your town after your class 10th for better education in +1 and +2, and then to prepare for IIT-J. So you're away from your parents. Then after your +2, you went to college. And after college, I immediately started up my first company. So I was completely occupied with all those things, right? So I wish I could have spent more time with my father, right? I could have spent more time in the family, right? So that is one thing I really regret, right? And I've started, and only after losing my father, right, I started valuing the family time, right? So that is one thing I really regret, and I think I'll keep regretting that. But apart from that, regarding basically, getting, keep basically, keep improving yourself, right? Your overall personality and your overall, performance. So I think that, I started, appreciating the impact of candidness and openness to feedback quite late. It's not that, I was close to basically these concepts earlier, right? But I thought these things to be very natural, right? So basically the kind of impact, such kind of orientation, right, can have in your execution, in your team building, in your scaling up, right? The extent of impact I realized quite late. So that realization could have been a bit earlier. And also, the habit.
Sorry, I want to be specific. You're saying feedback to help you improve, to learn faster and change.
So,
What's the second point? Family, I was clear. Yeah, the second one. Yeah. Yeah.
So, openness to feedback.
Openness.
Right?
Okay.
Openness to feedback, right? So that should be there. So
got it.
You should proactively, seek feedback, and you should not get offended by feedback. So feedback are the
2+ years I've known, 3 years plus I've known, you've been the most open to feedback. So whatever you're talking about, you'd learned even before, well before. So, but yeah, great. Keep going. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think apart from this, the habit of reading, right? So of course, I used to be, I used to be a good student, right? I used to come first in my class, but most of the reading was for academic curriculum, right? So reading outside your academic curriculum is very important. And autobiographies, I think, are the best resources to expedite your learning. So reading someone's autobiography is like spending uninterrupted, months long kind of time with that person on one-on-one basis.
Yeah.
Right. So when someone writes an autobiography, right, they basically they put their heart out, right, and they share all the experiences in the best possible, with the best possible articulation.
Any top one or two that come to mind for the audience?
the immediate reaction is Ride of a Lifetime, right?
Bob
So
Iger's, yeah,
the Bob
amazing book.
Iger, right?
Yeah,
So the Ride of a Lifetime is an amazing book, and I would say it can be a life changing book for many of us,
yeah.
right?
Awesome. That's all great learning, man. So being open to feedback, learning, reading more, that's great. And then the most important thing of all, finding time for family amidst
Right.
all this, right? Hopefully you and all the audience founders listening and note to myself, all of us do that more, right?
You know,
So
Anand,
yeah,
because of the same realization, right? During the COVID second wave, right? We really went, all out and for our team members, right? And we really did everything we could do in our best capacity. So we took lots of measures, right? So we provided them infinite paid leaves as per their situation and requirement. We supported them financially a lot. We provided them a 120 days, 180 days kind of advance salaries without any approval mechanism with just 4 hours of disbursement tag. And finally, we also waived off those advances. Then we facilitated COVID vaccinations for all our team members and all of their family members free of cost. We provided in their health cover, we got this COVID coverage included, and not just for the team members, but again for the entire family members. We also got them life cover, and each of these items at the expense of the company, right? Not part of the CTC. And a lot of many more support measures, 24/7 city level support line, central level support line, then 24/7 access to the doctors and counselors, right, for the entire family, right? So we believe that if we really need to do the right, so listening for our customer, we need to do the value creation for our customers, then having a right team with right alignment, with right commitment, with right sense of belongingness and ownership is the first and foremost requirement, right? So there is a lot of focus towards that.
that's amazing, man. Neeraj, this has been great. All the learnings, maybe any parting thoughts for the audience listening?
Anand, to that I would say that anybody can do anything, right? So you just need to have the right courage, and you should not worry about your existing skill sets or your past experiences or access to the resources. All those things can be arranged and solved while onto the journey, right? But starting up immediately is very important, and courage to start up is very important. If you're starting with right purpose, and if you have a right orientation, like we talked about, openness to feedback, openness to keep learning, right, openness to keep improving yourself, right? So if you have those ingredients in place, then anything is possible. Literally anything is possible.
Awesome. On that note, Neeraj, it's been a real pleasure having you. I think you're onto something huge here and greatness for yourself as well as for the company. We wish you the very best of luck and really thank you for sharing your story so
Thanks,
candidly.
man. Thanks a lot. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed this conversation.
I hope you enjoyed my chat with Neeraj as much as I did. Please do share the podcast with your friends, as I think this might be a timely listen for a lot of us. If you have feedback, please let us know on Twitter at Axel_India and visit us on seed2scale.com/insights or share a comment on the platform you listen to this podcast. Your reviews and comments will help others discover this podcast. Please do subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already. We will be continuing with our Grit Stories series, and I look forward to bringing you the next episode. Until then, thank you and stay safe.